Okay, so now we've gone over the basics for actually what you're seeing on the screen for playing Stellaris. Let's go over a couple of tips for playing the game. Now, at the start of the game, you own your area of space. You have a whole galaxy to explore. You own a tiny little bit, and you need to assign some science ships to start exploring for you. Now, one of the things you don't have unlocked at the start of the game is automatic exploration. One of your best ways to start exploring the galaxy is to survey systems. Surveying systems will give you the information as to whether you can inhabit any of the planets in those systems, and if there's anything special about any of those planets in the system. In order to do that, you literally select your science ship here, right click on the system, and do survey system. And that will issue the command. Now, if I go to this system, as you can see here, the ship will automatically plot out a route and do it by itself. If you want to survey a specific planet in the system, so for example, once you enter the system you can see there is actually an inhabitable planet in that system, you can actually right click the individual planet and tell it to go and survey that one particular planet if you wish. Generally, surveying the system I personally think is the better option. You're not in an immediate rush at the start of the game, so you can generally take your time and just tell your science ship to survey that one system. Now, one of my big tips for earlier on in the game is, because you don't have automatic exploration, you're not actually restricted to only surveying one system and then reissuing the next command. Once you've issued that command, if you hold shift on your keyboard, right click on the next system and do survey system, it will just queue it up. So once that science vessel has gone to that system, once it has finished the issued the command for surveying all the planets in that system, it will then go across to this system, and then so on and so forth. I can tell it to go to this system. I can keep issuing those commands, and it will just go from system to system to system until it can't scan anything in that system, or it evades anything that's in that system. So for example, if I come across a boss or pirates or another empire is in this area here, my science vessel will just stop. It will then await for another series of issues of commands to be issued to it, and then I can get it to carry on exploring the galaxy if I wish. The other thing to be aware of, whether you're playing alone or whether you're playing in multiplayer, is this up here. Now the game starts paused. As you can see, it says paused up here, and that is it. If you hit the pauses, it goes to normal speed. You have plus and minuses next to it. You can slow the game down. Slowest, slow, normal, fast, fastest. And that is the range of speed. Now, if you're fairly new to the game, slowest is obviously the best option to pick. It just gives you more time to process the amount of things per second. As you become more familiar with what it is you want to do, you can essentially issue more commands per minute, more commands per second, if the game is running slower. It does reach a certain point in the game that you are just waiting for things to happen in the game. You're waiting for ships to go across the galaxy, you're waiting for things to be built, and then you can typically speed it up. Just remember as well that if you are in a multiplayer game, that speed will be the same speed for everyone else that is playing. So if you're playing with friends, you need to kind of agree on a speed that you want to all play at. If you're all fairly new, playing at something like slowest and then speeding up to perhaps normal is a good way to go. Once you get more familiar, you can play the game entirely on normal. You can then eventually move to fastest if you wish. As you can see here, my ship's just moving across systems, and bonk, has arrived. Now, one science ship doing this whole entire galaxy at the very start of the game isn't entirely practical. Now, you have a couple of different options here. Personally, I always build a second science ship. I think at least having 2 science ships is a good way to start the game. Your other option here is to use your military fleets. Now, your military fleet is consistent of 3 ships at the start of the game. You can actually split your ships here if you do split fleet. It's now split into a fleet of 2 and a fleet of 1. I can actually split this again. So I now have each individual ship as its own fleet. Now, surveying systems gives me a full detailed view of an entire system. I'll be able to figure out how many minerals are in that system, if there's any inhabitable planets, if there's any anomalies in any of those planets. But if I use these ships, I can actually just visit the system, find out its name, and find out if there is an empire nearby. So I can use it for a basic level of exploration. So, for example, if you're playing a game with your allies and your allies turn around and say, oh, I'm at about 6 o'clock on the map. Fine, I've split my fleet. I'm going to select one of them, and I'm just going to tell him to go down to here. He'll figure out his own route on the way down, and he'll just start making his way there. Same with the other ship. I can go over to here, and I can leave the third ship over to here. Now, is it wise to abandon all your military fleet at the start of the game like this? It's similar, if any of you have seen any of the basic strategy games, for example, like StarCraft, for example, it's not uncommon to use a worker just to get scouting in the galaxy or scouting on the map, just so you can learn where things are in the universe. Yes, it does pose a risk that essentially I'm going to lose the 31, 31, and 31 of ships, but that amount of fleet power at the start of the game isn't going to make much difference. If someone decides they're going to attack me, having lost these 3 ships isn't going to be a huge decider whether I win or lose that war. You're better off typically using them for exploration, just so you can start to see the lay of the land, start to see where your enemies are, start to see where your friends are, start to see where anything is that you need to know. The second science ship, once it's built, as you see, it's about 30 seconds in now. Let's just speed it up a little bit. And voila. Slow it right back down again. Right. Now, the thing you have to remember with the science vessels is in order for them to do exploration, they have to have a leader. So make sure you recruit a new scientist. I'm going to check out if they have got anything towards exploration. These guys haven't. I actually have one guy here that's got a anomaly research reduction, but he's currently surveying other planets anyway. So we're going to go for leadership gain. Well, I'm actually playing a machine empire here, so I don't have to worry about leadership. They're going to live almost forever, so they'll eventually get the maximum level anyway. So I'm actually going to do it for the cheaper influence one here. So that's my second science vessel now exploring the galaxy. So what am I going to do with this guy? Now, normally at the start of the game you'll have different directions. I'm using hyperlanes, so I physically I can go left, right, or down. Now I've sent off my science vessel to the right. I've sent off one of my combat ships down to the south, one to the left, one to the right. So as my science ship is going this way, I'm actually going to send my second science ship this way. So here we go. Survey system, survey system, survey system. So my ship that I've sent off, my combat ship, has already discovered that this system contains one inhabitable planet, and by the looks of it, he's about to jump to another world which also contains, another system which also contains another inhabitable planet. So if I'm desperate for expanding my empire, I can use my science vessel to immediately go to those systems and survey them entirely. I'm in no immediate rush, I'm not going to do that for now, but you need to make sure that you've constantly got commands for your science vessels to be doing things. There is a whole load of galaxy for them to explore, and for them to be sitting there is a complete waste of time. Now, anomalies. Now, when your science vessel is doing a full scan of a system, they may discover an anomaly in the system. Does that mean you have to immediately do it? No, it does not. One thing you need to be aware of is your situation log does not keep a track of any anomalies until they have been completely surveyed. So, this guy has just surveyed this planet. If I found an anomaly here, it would be a rank of 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe there is also 5 as well. Excuse me a second. But until I actually pursue that research, it will not appear in my situation log. So you have to mentally keep an eye on your galaxy. You will be given an indicator in a system. It will be like a microscope above that system, just to say there is an anomaly in that system. I believe it is on their list of things to do to add to the situation log for anomalies. But for now, you just need to keep an eye on the galaxy. Anomalies, now, there's always a risk with an anomaly now. It used to be a case of there was no risk if your guys were skilled enough. Now, regardless of your skill, there's always at least a 5% chance of failure. Anomalies at the start of the game, if you get a few rank 1s, I normally say go for it. If you get rank 1s, you normally have a 10 to 5%, or 5 to 10%, I should say, chance of failure. Depending on their attributes. So like I said to you before, this guy here actually has a minus 25% chance of failure. So he's going to be my prime dude for actually doing anomalies. If you get an anomaly, a level 1 or a level 2 anomaly at the start of the game, go for it. It's going to give you at least perhaps some influence. It may give you some minerals. It may give you some energy. It will give you a positive boon, essentially. You're not in an immediate rush, so if any of your materials or anything is capped out at that time, you may just decide to leave it. You don't have to immediately do it. You don't have to immediately research that anomaly. You can wait. There is no rush. The only thing is if you are on the border of another empire and you might lose access to that system, you may want to focus on trying to do the anomaly in that system. Right, now I've got my science vessels lined up to be doing various different things. I've got them both surveying, and I have my 3 ships here, which you can see are slowly spreading out and exploring the galaxy. I'm just going to bring it up a tiny notch in speed. The other thing, in fact, I'm going to bring it up to full speed. The other thing which we may encounter in a few seconds is another empire.
System survey complete.
There we go, which is a notification that the survey is complete. So here we go. Then the encounter pops up when you're on single player. If you get a encounter or a notification, it does immediately pause the game, so you can decide whether what you're going to do next after you encounter another species. Now, here I have encountered another species in core. So here we go. Contact report. Enigmatic spacefarers. So it looks like there is someone here. I have no idea who these guys are. At the moment, they are surveying core, and they're surveying all 5 other planets in this solar system. Now, that suggests to me that it is a sentient life form. Basically, it's another empire like me. They're doing a full survey of the system, so therefore they're interested in looking at the system. So they're either in that system or they're nearby to it. Now, if you go to your situation log, as you can see here, investigate alpha aliens available. It costs 60 society research. In the grand scheme of things, that's not a huge amount. But it does give you the reward of either a special project or influence. Once you establish communications with them, typically you're rewarded with influence. If it's not a sentient species, if it's something unique, you're normally then rewarded with a special project. As I said to you before, this looks like, by the looks of the ship, it is doing things. It's doing the surveying the same as me, therefore it's a sentient species, so it will likely be influence. If it was a crystalline entity, which is quite apparent when you look at them, if it was a void cloud, if it was a big ball of energy, if it was something other than a ship, you'd be issued with a special project, so you'd be given something else to do. Influence at the start of the game, you can see you're capped at 1,000. It's probably going to be handy to get. So if you get the opportunity to investigate another alien species, go for it. Now, picking your first slots of research. Now, I'm going to slow the game right down here while my ships are exploring the galaxy. Now, your first research. Now, as I said to you before, the game has actually already been running for a little while now, because my science vessels have started to go out, my military vessels are out searching the galaxy. So, I haven't actually been researching anything. I haven't lost anything by not researching immediately. It has actually stored. As you can see here, I've stored 97 physics, I've stored 79 society, and I stored 79 engineering. In the grand scheme of things, you don't want to store things. Having stuff being constantly researched is always a good move. But what do you decide to research? Now, early on in the game, a lot of your maintenance is your energy. So finding new ways to gain energy credits is typically a good idea. So solar panels is normally my go-to first option, because it just gives me a flat +3 energy credits, as you can see there, for any of my inhabited planets that I have a space station around. So spaceports, I can fill this slot here, and in here will appear the solar panels. It's just a nice, easy way of getting energy at the start of the game. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to pick it as well. You may decide that, depending on the type of empire that you're going to build, that you may not be needing a huge amount of energy at the start. Again, the other option here for me is to increase my energy storage capacity. It also gives me access to the energy grid, which is a structure that I build on planets that actually also increases the energy credits it generates. Again, it wouldn't be a bad decision at this point in the game. I could build one on my planet that I have already, and it's going to give me plus 10% energy that planet is already producing. It just so happens this planet is currently producing 11 energy credits, so I will at least get a plus 10% to that 11 energy credits, which may not be a huge amount for me at the moment. The plus 3 is probably going to give me a bigger bonus. If I have a whole world that is producing energy credits, obviously then building an energy grid on that planet is also going to give me a nice boost to the amount of energy credits I'm getting. Let's have a look. And the other option is physics. So again, if I want to go down the science route, I may develop a physics lab, which is... Oh dear. Ancient caretakers. Error. Data block corrupted. Initiate greetings protocol. I have encountered a fallen empire. Wonderful. They own one system and they own a massive amount of space. Ha! Right, so I may decide that I'm going to focus on research. If I focus on research, then I pay the penalty of not having a flat amount of energy or having energy storage. I'm actually going to start the energy flat energy generation. So society is the next one. Again, increase the influence I gain. Spare parts depot is my choice here because it increases the build speed of robots, which my empire is focused on building robots, so that's probably going to be my immediate one there. Or biolab, which again is another going down the science route again, whereas I had physics on the first option, I have the biolab option here for society. I'm actually going to go for spare parts. And for engineering, I have the nano-composite armor, I have the engineering facility, so we had the physics lab for physics research, we had the society, the biolab for society research, and we got the engineering facility for engineering research. I have the option of improved servo motors, so increasing my minerals by 5% and my army damage by 5%, or the nano-composite armor, so making my ships a little bit stronger. Now, my choice here is actually, I'm going to go for the economic route, so I'm actually going to go plus 5% minerals. My ships are out in the galaxy at the moment surveying. If I'm not planning on them surviving. If they do survive, it's an added bonus, but chances are having a slightly more armor isn't going to make any difference to them surviving. And I don't need a huge amount of engineering facility research right now. I'm focused more on my wealth generation for minerals and energy, so this one is going to be my choice for now. So picking your first technology is basically your first steps to deciding how you're going to play. As soon as you've selected them, the stored up, as you can see here, research will then start piling in, and your technology will start to be researched. And that is the start of my technology decisions at the start of the game.